Welcome to The Unlikely Executive, the podcast where passion meets purpose. Here we share stories of people who have transformed their lives and the world around them by following what truly drives them. I'm Barbara Carlisle, an executive coach and mentor for non-profits, and I help people who want to make a positive impact actually do it. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Unlikely Executive podcast. This week, I'm really privileged to have as my guest Emma Freivogel, who is the CEO and founder of not one, but two companies, Be Radical and Radical Recruit, that aim to help organisations to turn their diversity, CSR, ESG, and that is corporate social responsibility and environment, social and governance commitments into actual meaningful actions. So let's not just talk the talk on these issues, let's walk the walk. So I'm really privileged to have you here today, Emma. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, mate. I couldn't think of a better day to join you because it's so sunny and beautiful in London.
And it's sunny and beautiful in the north as well. So
yeah, fills my soul, makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, the winter has been rather long this year, hasn't it? And it's just so many people are like, I didn't realise how much I was desiring that sunshine, but now it's
here. I mean, I've got to say, because I'm Australian, so it's a little bit warmer most of the time in where I live in Melbourne. And I think every winter is a long winter in London. I've been here 14 years, though, and I still haven't gotten used to it. But we love to moan and whinge, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the British part of your 14 years. It's nicely embedded.
Yeah. I'm practically British now.
And can I ask, Emma, what made you come over to the UK in the first place?
Oh, gosh, I was living with a man that I quite adored, actually, but he was a bit of a stoner and our relationship probably wasn't the best. So I decided to leave that and I sold my half of our house to him. I paid off my debt and I just desperately needed a sea change. And so I managed to convince my best mate of the merits of giving up her cushy job and the company car and everything else that we had that went with that job. And we gave away all our worldly belongings. And we packed up her little car, which was an absolute shit heap. I'm shocked it made the journey. And we drove up the guts of Australia, up the Nullarbor to Perth, where I spent 10 very sleepy months trying something new. And I accidentally got a job managing a recruitment division for Drake International. I'd never done recruitment in my life. And I vowed after those 8 or 10 months to never do it again because I hated it, the irony of this. And then decided that the world was my oyster and it was time to travel. So came to London in 2013. And haven't left since other than to travel Europe and, explore the UK. So, yeah, I've been here 14 years on March the 14th or 13th, I think it is actually. So my anniversary is coming up soon.
Very soon.
And now I'm a business owner and run a charity and have got a cat and I'm stuck here.
Never really truly stuck, but let's talk about what you're doing today and how you ended up, setting up Be Radical and Radical Recruit.
Followed in my mother's footsteps. So she's quite radical in the sense that she's a care leaver and born into poverty, essentially. And she sort of taught me what was right and what was wrong and, that all people should experience love and be valued and feel like they belong and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of followed in her footsteps on the career front. So as soon as I was able to work, I started working as a support worker in disability services in Melbourne and very quickly talked my way into leadership roles because I'm very good at talking.
Really?
And people believe me when I do. So that definitely helped and was responsible for managing lots of different services for people who very frequently sit on the outskirts of society because they're different or they don't enjoy the same privilege and opportunities that people like I did growing up, and really enjoy sort of the wins that come with that sort of work. It's not work that everyone can do, I don't think, but it's certainly work that's really close to my heart. But yeah, so worked in managing services for deaf and blind people and people in recovery and these types of communities. And on many sort of occasions, I was supporting people to find jobs, essentially. And what I became really aware of very quickly was the fact that we weren't doing a very good job. And the charity sector, I think, to this day, doesn't do a very good job of supporting people to find jobs that pay sort of fair pay, offer meaningful work, provide career progression opportunities, things like that. And so what I was doing in my last role, I was working with a grassroots charity supporting women coming out of the prison system to find jobs and not reoffend and reestablish themselves in the communities that they belong to pre-prison, but also in the roles that they hold within their families pre-prison. And during my 2 years there, I helped just over 400 women find work, but it wasn't good work, and very often these women were going into jobs post-release that would keep them in work poverty. They still couldn't feed their families or pay their bills or afford market rents and this sort of thing, despite the fact that many of them had so much potential and, had careers prior to prison and prior to the domestic violence that took them to prison, these sorts of things. So, I founded Radical because I believe that everyone should have access to a great recruitment service. And broadly speaking, your high street recruiters have no idea how to talk to and engage with talent that come from non-traditional backgrounds or who might have criminal convictions or gaps on their CV due to homelessness or mental health crises, these sorts of things. So Radical was born really in my attempt to sort of solve that problem. So we started off in October 2019. That was mere weeks before the pandemic shut down recruitment in London, as if becking in a homeless person to a corporate wasn't hard enough. The jobs just weren't there to fill. And so I spent my first year piloting the model, and I did that with the help of an amazing foundation, Reward Gateway Foundation, who are no longer in existence, sadly, but they gave me 40K to pilot the model. So I lived off 2-minute noodles, and I placed as many people as I possibly could in that first year, including 45 men and women who were taking in. There was I don't know whether you remember this, but the government, in the name of public safety, basically solved rough sleeping over a 3-day period. Do you remember that? Yeah.
During COVID.
During COVID. So all of these people who were, many of them entrenched in homelessness and who didn't have recourse to public funds because they were EU nationals, were given respite from the streets and wrapped in support. And the GLA, Greater London Authority, commissioned us to work with St Mungo's to support a group of 65 men and women who were EU nationals. So they didn't have any formal job experience. They were victims of modern day slavery. They'd experienced, just trauma you wouldn't want your worst enemy to experience, having lived on the streets. Didn't speak a great deal of English, a whole range of challenges. And we ended up placing 45 into work over a 6-month period. 2 years later, 78% was still in work. So it's a really great project to get us started. But essentially what we try and do is teach people how to fish, give them the skills, the tools, the confidence, the courage they need to go and apply to jobs on the open market, win those jobs on merit, start well and sort of progress in their chosen careers, really. So we're a team of 1,000 volunteers. We've got 4 paid staff. We've made 750 placements, and we support those who are furthest from the labour market, who have been told over and over and over again, you're never going to amount to anything because you don't fit the popular mould. So that's Radical Recruit. That's what we do.
Wow. Yeah. The impact that you're having is pretty significant. And yet there are so many recruitment agencies out there, and they're not taking advantage of the diversity of people who do have the potential, but perhaps need support. But we all need support when we're looking for a job, because our confidence levels, even if you've been in a successful career before, I sometimes coach mid-career folk who are going, I've got no transferable skills. I don't know what my skills are. And we spend a lot of time building up the confidence and looking at transferable skills. But if you're feeling that you're not even in that bracket.
Oh, absolutely. I think the woman who inspired Radical is a really good example of what's possible, the right support at the right time. I met Chanel in my first week or two in my previous role, the one I spoke about with the women's charity. And so she was a 25, I think at the time, Black, queer, born into incredibly tumultuous circumstances, like the stuff horror movies are made of. Her 2 parents, her mum and dad, were children when they had her. So they were 13 and 14 respectively when Shan was born, and they belonged to opposing gangs. So Shan was pulled pillar to post. You know, she didn't go to school. She was in and out of care. Her mother was really abusive and alcoholic, who would starve her and her siblings, like lock the pantry and the fridge and withhold food, to the point where Shan had to go and prostitute herself out just to earn money to eat. So really, you know, someone who, she's had knives held to her throat and guns to her head. On paper, probably shouldn't have been alive. And one of the first jobs I got as part of my induction was to call the prison and have a conversation with Shan, because she was coming to the end of her release after 10 years in prison. So her most recent stint was about 6 years for arson and threats to kill. Really serious crime, you know. She had no schooling, no social capital. She had no plans post-release. She was going to get sort of released into a supported hostel. I use the word supported very loosely. And, you know, my job at that time was to cobble together a CV with exactly no experience and try and market her to employers so she could find some opportunities on release. Because the alternative would be she'd go back to, you know, the gangs that she was born into. And I was speaking to her on the phone, and she was I was vetting her, you know, how serious is she about changing her life. And she was talking about a catering business that she founded in the prison that was servicing the prison, their partners, and even catering for the governor. And I don't know, have you ever been into a prison?
I've been to a secure unit, not a prison per se.
Very similar vibe in the sense that, I mean, you can't do anything outside of the usual regime without this lengthy process to get things approved. And it's very, very difficult. You're told when to move, when to eat, when to study, when to exercise, all this sort of stuff. And so she'd managed to, using her influence, convince the governor of the merits of letting her sort of found this bakery. Anyway, once I discovered this, I said, I'm running an event in the prison. I was bringing a whole load of suits, a whole load of corporates into the prison to interview prep with women. And I said, can you, you know, cater this event? She agreed. And I was determined to get someone from the food retail industry in front of her, because I just thought, oh my God, this woman's got skills, you know, that are so useful. Anyway, the head of people from Honest Burgers was convinced to come, Ollie, and Shan fed him a piece of her carrot cake. And he said it was the best fucking piece of carrot cake he'd ever eaten, and asked her what her job prospects were on release. And she had none, but he happened to be opening a new restaurant, Honest Burgers, in Reading, which was where she was being released to. So she went to interview for a prep chef role the day she was released, rocked up in her prison gear and got the job. And 18 months later, she and I and Ollie were talking at this conference about the challenges that people like Shan face on release, and how everyone should deserve a chance to live and be valued and pay their bills and pay their taxes and blah, blah, blah. And she was speaking in front of like 100 people she didn't know from corporate, with no experience at all, no formal training, and advocating second chance hiring and really courageously sharing her incredibly personal, absolutely terrifying story, if I'm honest. And she was saying things like, you know, for the first time in my life, I feel safe. I used to go to prison to feel safe. Now I feel safe in my own home. And it was literally one crappy CV, a crappy version of a good CV, and one introduction to an employer who could see beyond the labels. And Shan's whole life changed, you know, the trajectory of her life changed. She's now working in a 60K head chef role in a fancy London restaurant. And it's like just one introduction, one piece of carrot cake. But you've got to introduce that person to someone who can look beyond the label, you know, homeless, domestic violence, disabled, black, queer, whatever. So, yeah, I think definitely it's a really tough market at the moment. It's even tougher if you're not a white, male, cisgendered, hetero, you know, non-disabled. But, yeah, for the people that are listening, take inspiration from Chanel, because if someone like her can do, you know, change her life and build a better future, anyone can.
Yeah, no, that's a really inspiring story. Thanks for sharing it. And so on the back of that, you then thought, right, we can do this with more people. And you left the prison service and built the charity that served the women in the prison, and then set up Radical Recruit.
Yeah. So Radical works with anyone who doesn't fit the popular mold because they come from a protected class and don't enjoy the protections they should because they can't get the job in the first instance, or people like Shan who have had really adverse life experiences that make it hard to get a first job, return after a period of absence, or that keep them in underemployment.
Yes.
I speak to so many, black and brown women who are earning 20 grand less than their white counterparts and aren't being, constantly being overlooked for promotions and other opportunities simply because they don't fit the popular mold. It's incredibly unfair. It's not right. And we want to do something about it.
Yeah. And we don't always know what the salary difference is, do we? So we sort of think, well, I don't think I'm getting paid enough, but I'm sure I'm getting paid the same as everybody else in this type of job. And then unfortunately, that's not the case. I wanted to just clarify, you've got two businesses, haven't you? You've got Be Radical and Radical Recruit. And Radical Recruitment is a charity. It's registered as a charity.
Yep.
And then tell me a little bit about why, as the founder of one amazing charity, you then decided to branch out and fulfill another need that you saw.
Yeah, I mean, it was out of necessity, really. So way back when I started, a lot of the work that we had to do with employers to get them to the point where they could receive our radical talent, welcome them and accommodate them in their recruitment process, we were doing for free. So I'm talking about end-to-end audits of recruitment processes. I'm talking about anti-bias training. I'm talking about sort of culture shifting events that really help our employers and the brands that say they want to work and recruit radical talent to think about who is radical, like what is diversity, who's not in their organizations, what are the barriers and blockers that they experience when trying to apply for jobs, start and sustain their placements. I think the biggest challenge for us is not actually preparing the candidate for your, recruitment process. It's actually making sure that the recruitment process is accessible and welcoming in the first instance. And that tends to be where brands are getting it wrong. They say they want more Black people, but they don't empathize with the experience of Black people in that recruitment process, in the labor market generally, in the world broadly speaking. And so there are all of these hidden barriers and blockers that recruitment teams, businesses, generally speaking, aren't even aware of. So a lot of the work we do is helping them to understand the barriers and helping them to design for the people they say they want more of in their talent pipeline, more of in their teams. So Be Radical was born to provide those services. So we have three sort of core offerings. We've got recruitment audit, so looking at end-to-end recruitment processes through a neurodivergent lens, because we know that most of the recommendations we will make for a neurodivergent human will have global application and benefit everyone. So if you're wanting to be more welcoming and more accessible to radical talent, broadly speaking, you need to be able to accommodate neurodivergent humans. And we look at sort of those processes using lots of key pillars like, executive sponsorship and accountability, like staff capability and training needs, like employer brand and EVP, corporate brand, these types of things. So the business case for doing the work around the recruitment process is understood across verticals. Then we also provide support to organizations who are wanting to take some positive action. So, for example, it might be that an organization has some graduate roles, but actually they see the potential to strip back that graduate degree, open up their talent pipeline, and will help them sort of hire in people that they wouldn't, be able to reach through their usual search and selection methods because they don't trust the brand will take them with the seriousness they deserve, these sorts of things. And then we also help with training. So we do lots of unconscious bias training, some amazing, really immersive, interactive sessions involving radical talent who act as human books. So you can come in as a reader to a human library and borrow a couple of human books, learn about that person's identities and experiences, and then using those insights, design with them in mind. So it might be reviewing a policy or a process. It could be redesigning a job description, these types of things to make them really welcoming and accessible. We do lots of trauma-informed training. We've got some amazing mobility programs for women and disabled folk. So they're the types of things that we've got. And the idea is that we can wrap our clients in support, provide them with entry-level talent or more skilled, experienced hires.
That's quite a broad range of service offerings. And I'm curious to know, As the CEO and founder of both of these organizations, how do you decide what your priorities need to be on any given day?
Oh gosh, I mean, just to be clear, I'm the co-founder. So my mum co-founded with me the charity, and I've got two amazing super women, Holly and Kirsty, who co-founded Be Radical. I don't want to take all the whatever.
Yeah.
How do I? Well, I mean, in this, where both businesses are in startup, so the biggest challenge for us is keeping them afloat in the most austere economic environment of my lifetime, certainly, and in a political landscape that is consistently changing and not in our favour as a general rule. You've only got to look at sort of the politics in America to probably notice how challenging our role is. So I think in terms of what we spend our days doing, it's finding the best partners who are going to do the work with us. I think there's lots of lip service paid to diversity, social value, and ESG with not nearly enough regulation. Lots of brands are getting, plastering their values on their office walls and all over LinkedIn and talking about their commitments to diversity and social value, but not actually doing much about it. So, our priority is always finding the best partners who align with our values and are ready to actually do the work to turn their commitments into meaningful action.
So in terms of, sorry to interrupt, but in terms of like you as one of the co-founders, one with your mum, one with the two other amazing women, where do you sort of sit in terms of knowing what your strengths are and where you can make the biggest impact? And you've said getting partners on board, but is that a priority for each of you? Obviously, like strategically,
So what is my
but
role?
like tactically,
I misunderstood the question. It's a
no,
really
interesting. It was a good answer. Not saying. But I'm curious to know, as a leader, how do you wake up and decide, right, what am I going to do today?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a founder, you do everything at the start because you have to. And then you recruit people who bring, strengths and experiences that you don't have ideally, and delegate the things that they're really good at and that you're probably not so great at to them, which frees you up in theory to do the things you're good at. In terms of what I'm good at telling stories, marketing, promoting our services and the people that we support through far more empowering and really, I don't know, joyful lenses, hopefully. So my role in both businesses has shifted towards more of a strategic role, as well as a huge big focus on marketing our offering, but also the impact that we create with our partners and on behalf of our radicals. So that's definitely sort of my key focus at the moment, is bringing new partnerships, telling the right stories, and getting in front of the right groups of people.
And are you trained? Are you trained in marketing and storytelling, or is this something that's a natural strength that you've pulled on now that you've got this?
I have so few talents, but writing is one of them.
You've probably got lots of talents, Emma. But your strongest talent is writing. Is that what you're telling me?
Definitely right. I love telling stories. I think there's so, if you look at the popular narrative relating to any of the groups of people that we work with, they are, the stories are always told or they're framed through a lens of mistrust. And it pisses me off. Because it's completely dangerous and unfair and unkind and all that sort of stuff. So I love nothing more than flipping the script and telling new stories about the same people that are really empowering and show the huge potential we each have, and that are hopefully really inspiring to others that have similar identities or experiences. But writing's always, I find it really cathartic as well. Like, I think if I don't say it, I'll pop. And as a founder, in a busy startup, you've got to find ways to preserve your sanity. So yes, it serves a business purpose, but also I just think it's really great for the soul to write and tell stories.
Yeah. No, it is. It's not for everybody, is it? The writing, but when you feel capable and able to write, it is a good thing.
It's just a really powerful way to change hearts and minds, and we tell our lives in stories, don't we? And I tell myself stories. I don't have any skills, that was one.
Yes, absolutely.
You pulled me up on it. So yeah, being able to do that for yourself and my instance of, my case, the people that we support, is pretty bloody Cool.
So just back onto that marketing, are you like trained as a marketeer, or is
Oh
it
gosh,
just
no.
no? Yeah, because
No,
this
so
is
when I
important for me, because it's well, I'm not, you can hear people saying, well, I'm not a marketer. She's obviously, been to uni, done the marketing exams, and she's had that experience. But what you're saying is, no, it's just you've got the talent for writing. You said you're good at talking as well, getting people on your side through storytelling. But it's a natural evolution of who you are, not down to the fact that you've done a qualification.
No, certainly not. I mean, I started two double degrees, didn't finish either of them. Ended up working my ass off and buying a house, and then ended up in senior roles where I didn't need a degree. So I think university is great for some people. It wasn't for me. I've no
Mm.
interest in returning. I think that I'm a much better storyteller now than I was 5 years ago. Practice makes perfect.
Yes.
I think it's really easy to practice the things that you enjoy doing. And if you can find a career where some of what you do every day fills your soul and feeds your heart, then you're probably in a much better position than most people in the world. How many people can get up out of bed and think, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to work today because what I get to do is meaningful and is a privilege and changes the world.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean
Um,
it's easy, does it? It means actually you're in that development zone, you're being pushed to feel uncomfortable but excited
yeah.
rather than stressed.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, and you wouldn't know it because I seem like a real extrovert and quite brash and loud or whatever, and in many respects I am. But way back when, I'd go into a networking event, and before that, I think, okay, what am I wearing, and are my nails the right color, and how does my hair look, and should I wear a lip today or not, and who's going to be in the room, all this sort of stuff. And it used to consume me, and I get there and I just, I was pretty useless. But then, practice, and I think for me, I just decided I was not going to feel that way anymore. They were useless feelings, and I had a plan in my head. Whenever I felt like that, I would consciously stop, and it's an exhausting process, and it took me years. But I had to I promised myself I would start noticing these things, and that when I did notice them, I would take a pause and follow these steps. And the steps were to logic it out.
Yes.
Like when you're starting not even starting, I think when you're starting a new career, it's really easy to believe things that aren't true about yourself because we're conditioned. I think women in particular are conditioned to believe we're, not as confident, not as good, not as blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if you start noticing them and just be really conscious of stopping yourself, those habits die hard pretty quick.
Yeah. It does take time, doesn't it? And they say about imposter syndrome, or whatever they call imposter syndrome these days, is that it's more likely to happen to high performing people who have ambition than those
I
who
didn't
have
know
no
that.
ambition. So it's that wanting to improve yourself can often make you feel that you're an imposter, which is sort of really counterproductive to improving yourself, really, isn't it? But that's the way
Yeah.
the brain works. And the self-talk that you're describing there, what would I
Oh, it's
advise my friend, is practical, but still difficult to do, because in the moment when you're going into that networking event, it's like years of telling yourself, oh, I should put lipstick on, I should do my hair. That it's difficult to break those cycles, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think there's a part of it was like, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing most days, but you get comfortable with not knowing. Like in a founder role, that's the nature of the beast.
Mm.
Some days you're on fire and other days you're in the depths of despair, and there's a bit of in between, hopefully, where you can breathe.
Yeah.
But I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
Oh. So
I'm
what
not.
did you want to do when you were younger?
I had no idea. I mean, I wasn't, and I used to be incredibly jealous of, I'm just thinking about, when I was sort of 14, 15, and we were starting to have conversations about careers. Terrible conversations that the school facilitated that didn't really help me at all, mind you. But
Oh, well, we didn't go to the same school, but I had that experience as
yeah,
well.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think schools do careers very well at all. But in Oz, because I was academically inclined and I could, get an A or at least a pass grade on my worst subject, the only sort of options that were discussed with me were university. There was no mention of entrepreneurship. There was no mention of apprenticeships, college, TAFE. In Melbourne, it's TAFE. It was just, if you can pass an exam, you go to university. And I had people around me that knew what they wanted to be and have become those those people. And here I am thinking, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I'm interested in. I had no idea about the opportunities that were available beyond, high school. And it's like, why aren't people having these conversations with young people first and foremost? But that sort of followed me into my adult life, and I think that for me, I want to do stuff that I've never been interested in money. I don't think leaving a legacy, having a load of cash when you die is the legacy I want to leave. I want to know that I've done something meaningful with my time and use my skills for good. That's what I want to do.
Before we leave, how might people get in touch with you? You mentioned that you've got lots of lovely humans on LinkedIn. Is that a great place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, the best way to get in touch with me would be just to email hello@radicalrecruit.co.uk and let me know what you're after. If you're wanting to follow our work or connect with me just informally, then find me on LinkedIn. So it's Radical Recruit or B-Radical, or my name's Emma Freivogel. And we post some really great, really inspiring, really thought-provoking content on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in hearing good news stories or you're interested in diversity or CSR, me and my business partners are great accounts to follow. Brilliant. If I do say so myself, it sounds like I'm blowing.
No, I can second that, Emma. They're entertaining, meaningful, impactful. Yeah, you've done a good job on that one. You've written them well. But we're out of time, Emma. But thank you ever so much for the time today. I've learned a lot about Be Radical and radical recruitment and a little bit about you.
Thanks very much for having me, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to The Unlikely Executive. If today's conversation sparked a new idea, inspired a shift, or gave you the nudge to step into your purpose, embrace it and take action. Remember to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss opportunities that can transform the way you lead, work and live your life. I'm Barbara Carlisle, executive coach, mentor and trainer. You can find my details in the show notes, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about the show and about your own journey. Until next time, take that step to be more authentically you, live your purpose, and enjoy making a positive impact.